This is Dylan with Dylan Talks Tone. Today we're going to talk about Filtertron versus Humbuckers. You have been asking for this one, and now you got it. Before we get started today, make sure that you are subscribed and that you hit the bell next to it, because you know the 30,000 subscriber guitar contest is closed, I think, now. I'm shooting this on Wednesday. It'll come out on Thursday. As I'm shooting this, we have like 29,930 subscribers or something. So by the time you're watching this video, it's probably going to be over 30,000, which means the contest is going to be closed. Do not go anywhere though, and make sure that you subscribe, because we have we're going to do some things monthly that you have to be subscribed for, because we're going to use our Patreon, patreon.com/DylanTalksTone, to buy some stuff to review and to do some tests with. And I have some ideas. If you go over to Patreon, I've been posting a couple of little ideas that I've been thinking about. We're going to use that money, and then we're just going to give it away when it's done, because I don't have room. So we're just going to give it back to you. It's going to be awesome. Filtertrons. There's an original way they were made, an original reason they were made, and then there's like an evolution of them to what we see today. So we're going to kind of break all of this down as we go. What you see hanging on the wall today and what they originally were intended to be, not exactly the same thing. 1956-ish, right around that area. It's always like the early 50s. Like, music blew up in the early 50s. Chet Atkins is like, hey man, Gretsch, I need a signature guitar, because I'm like the best guitar player of all time. He's one of the best guitar players of all time. They were using de-armand single coil pickups, and of course every guitar, every amp, all that stuff was wicked noisy. We're talking early adoption of all of this technology. That's why I say vintage stuff is not always amazing, because it was super early and it was actually kind of terrible. And so the innovation in this was that Ray Butts, this dude right here, invented some really cool stuff. He actually invented an amp with a tape delay in it, which is really awesome. But what he's really mostly known for, in my circle anyway, because I'm a pickup guy, is the Filtertron. It is the first humbucker ever made. Now, I know in my other video I said that the Seth Lover humbucker was first humbucker. Seth Lover beat Ray Butts to the patent office, but Ray Butts actually invented the Filtertron first. Gibson was behind Seth Lover, bigger brand. It's kind of, I would say that it is like the modern day version of that would be like Apple with the iPod versus Creative and some other people that came up with an MP3 player first, right? But Apple was like the first one to like largely market it, and so they get the credit for it. It's one of those deals. But basically, this Filtertron thing's really interesting because it's a smaller pickup. Because you got to remember, they're going into like a vintage de-armand hole, right? So it's a smaller pickup. Seth Lover's thing wasn't even around yet. There was no format to copy. There was nothing to work from, right? So basically what we have is two smaller bobbins to fit in that smaller case, to fit in that smaller hole. But here's the interesting part. Look at the construction of this. So this is some vintage style parts that we use to build our kind of period correct-ish Filtertrons. And if you notice, the bobbins, the screws go through this top plate, and then they go through the bobbin, and it like retains everything together, and it holds everything together. It's a really weird construction in comparison to a regular humbucker. That's why I would not recommend using those pull pieces, screws, to adjust height, because that's not what they were intended for. You got to remember that there was no humbucker that originally had pull pieces that were intended to height adjust. None. Fight me in the comments. We have a video about it. So there was no reason to adjust these pull pieces, because it assembled the entire thing. Underneath that is a fairly large and very strong Alnico 5 magnet that kind of pinches between everything, and then this like bottom plate like holds it all together. It's really weird. It's like literally like all friction held together. The bobbins are kind of small. They only take about 2,500, maybe if you use the right wire you could squeeze 3,000 winds on each coil. So as a result, you end up with depending on what you use for wire, a 3 to 5K pickup. But again, don't use the ohms reading of the pickup, the DC resistance of the pickup, to determine the output of the pickup. This thing has a lot of magnet. The pole pieces are narrower together, closer together fore aft, so like from bridge to neck. These things are loud. So you can't go by that 3 to 5K, oh, it's gonna be a super low output pickup. Is it gonna drive your amp really hard? Not really. When you drive them, they have a completely different sound. They do cleans incredibly well. You can imagine why Chet Atkins was super happy with them. Middle position is my favorite personally, second to neck. I really like the neck position with a pair of Filtertrons. What's really fun is to get one of these and put it in the neck position of a Telecaster, but that's a whole nother thing. Maybe we should do that in a video. That'd be really cool. Okay, so now we have the vintage style Filtertron kind of flushed out. Screws from the top, holds it all together, tiny bobbins, big magnet, friction held together, usually not wax potted, kind of noisy, like microphonic sort of. They can get unruly when you play them with a lot of gain, but it's still fun. The guitar player in my band actually plays one of these things, a Gretsch hollow body, and really loud, and it's really kind of fun because he has to chase it. It's really, really fun. All right, so now let's talk about some more modern takes on that situation. Not even modern, let's go back to one of the little evolutions of that. Let's talk about the high-low-tron. A lot of people were asking me what's the difference between a regular Filtertron and a high-low-tron. Well, let's whip the cover off of a high-low-tron and look underneath. It's not a humbucker. It's a single coil with a huge magnet with this little horseshoe of steel that goes over to these single pole pieces that are screws on the one side. So it's a very low output, really very low DC resistance, really big magnet, single coil. So it's not even a Filtertron. It does fit in the same hole, but it's not even a Filtertron. This pickup right here looks like a Filtertron because it has slits in it that look like a Filtertron, but honestly, it's a 12-hole regular 50 millimeter humbucker. It's just a humbucker with two slug sides instead of two screw sides instead of a slug and a screw, with a toaster top cover on it. It's a humbucker. That's all. So be careful when you're shopping for pickups that you don't just lump everything. People do this with Filtertrons and they do this with gold foils because it has a piece of gold in it. We could do a whole nother video about that. It has a piece of gold foil in it. It must be a gold foil. No, there's a lot of fake humbucker Filtertrons out there that are just a humbucker with a toaster top pickup and 6 more screws. And they're just a regular humbucker. And they're not interchangeable because they're different sizes. There's a difference between a humbucker and a Filtertron. If you have more questions like this, you want to know the difference between two things, whatever, these videos seem to be doing pretty good. You seem to be liking them. Let me know. Put it in the comments. And yeah, this has been fun. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you share, and make sure you hit the bell because I have some really, really cool things coming up. Thanks for hanging out. It's getting windy. I got to go to the post office. I hope you all have a good one. We'll see you in the next one.